the American flag. I wanted anybody burns the American flag, go to jail based on freedom of speech, goes to jail.
Hey, very quickly, I'm going to start, because I'm such a failure as a YouTuber, I would ask you to subscribe to this program if you're not. If you just get served this content and then you consume my videos, and if you appreciate what I do, if I bring you value, please subscribe. It's free. Just click that subscribe button below this video on YouTube, or like and follow this page on Facebook, and share the content. I would appreciate it very much. On YouTube, we are knocking on the door of 1.5 million subscribers, and I need to do a better job of asking for that subscribe. So anyway, let's talk about this. Apparently, Brian Glenn, the boyfriend of Marjorie Taylor Greene, is now some kind of a policy advisor. He's a special aide and assistant to the President of the United States. Not really. But the morphine of his role as a member of the press is being kind of muddled. Yesterday in the Oval Office, Donald Trump held a little press conference after signing whatever nonsense he's signing, and he throws it to the press to ask questions. And Brian Glenn apparently is a member of the press. I guess the bar's pretty low these days for constitutional protection under the First Amendment for the free and fair press. But Brian Glenn launches into this weird thing about trans-Tifa flags. Apparently they don't understand that Antifa is anti-fascist. So trans-Tifa doesn't even make any sense, Brian. Wouldn't expect you to make sense, dipshit. But there's a concerted effort right now to squelch the free speech, to trample upon the free speech, to target the free speech of Americans all across the country who aren't sufficiently mournful of their martyr, Charlie Kirk, the racist Christian nationalist bigot. A detestable and reprehensible character in American history. He will be remembered as that. We won't forget the many quotes of Charlie Kirk about wanting to dismantle civil rights, and that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake, and that Martin Luther King Jr. was a horrible, awful person, and that black women don't have the cognitive brain processing power to have achieved anything on their own. They have to steal their positions from white men who are actually worthy. All of these are just quotes from Charlie Kirk. So if they make you uncomfortable, conservatives, if you think it's attacking Charlie Kirk just by using his words, that's on you. But in this moment in the Oval Office, Brian Glenn starts rambling about trans flags, the flag that represents a group of people that is historically, to call them marginalized isn't just getting it done. They are abused. They are at risk of not only suicide, but also harm from the likes of people like Charlie Kirk and Brian Glenn and Donald Trump. So he starts rambling about the trans flags and says that we need to crack down. He's giving this idea to Donald Trump, ideas that Donald Trump takes from Brian Glenn and runs with, that involved squelching people's free speech, violating the Constitution of the United States. And he says that a lot of people are threatened by the transgender flag because it means a lot of different negative things to people. Very specific, fantastic. It means a lot of different negative things. And then he just throws in the word violence for some reason at the end there. Watch this, and then watch Donald Trump kind of devolve into a weird flag burning rant that has nothing to do with the transgender flag whatsoever. And then we're going to get to Brian Glenn and the direction, the power that he actually has in putting ideas into Donald Trump's mind that he then runs with, violating people's constitutional rights and ending the longest standing single protest in American history against nuclear war that was started in 1981 that Donald Trump dismantled because of Marjorie Taylor Greene's fucking boyfriend, Brian Glenn. First, though, the trans flag nonsense.
I think she's a disgusting person.
And one more question, if I could. A lot of these, in recent of these kind of trans shooters that we've seen over the last couple incidents, this flag right here is up and down 14th Street. This is what would be a trans flag. A lot of people are very threatened by this flag. It means a lot of different negative things to people, violence. Would you be opposed to taking this flag down up and down the streets of DC?
Well, I wouldn't be. Then they'll sue and they'll get freedom of speech stuff, so that'll happen. But I would have no problem with it. I will say, and Steve might just mention this, Todd, you might mention it too, because we're putting out an order. Freedom of speech means you can burn the American flag, which I think is horrible. But I noticed something over the last little while. As you do this, you start noticing things that you wouldn't normally think. It really causes unrest and violence when they burn American flag. So the American flag, I wanted anybody burns the American flag, go to jail based on freedom of speech, goes to jail immediately. But the freedom of speech protected them, right? And that's been argued a couple of times. And it's one of those things. But you know what? Hasn't been argued, and we're going to be arguing it, I think, very soon. And that's the violence. They incite violence. So I saw it just yesterday, they burned the American flag, and people that were there were fine. And all of a sudden, they're going crazy, and there's fist fights. It wasn't in Memphis either. But I will say, it incites violence. And I think you just do the exact same thing. Don't use freedom of speech. Use the incitement of violence. I mean, it's really, you got to see, these people were going at it. And, you could burn other things and people just sit there, they fall asleep. You burn the American flag, and you're on both sides. But the level of violence I saw this flag burning cause was incredible. It was an incitement. So I hope you guys are going to be able to do that, Pam, right?
Well, there's also groups called Trans-Tifa. So perhaps if you can label them a domestic terrorist group, and in all reality, you could take that flag down because it would represent the Trans-Tifa.
I think you probably could.
They're not even being coy about their desire to violate people's free speech rights, sacred, protected rights under the Constitution of the United States. The same party that whined and cried during COVID that White House gave recommendations on what things should be allowed to proliferate are now in a full-out assault on the Constitution against your free speech rights. Burning a flag is political speech. If someone gets upset by it because they don't understand the Constitution, that's not on the person who burnt the flag. It doesn't incite violence. If it does indeed incite violence, the crime is the person who committed the violence, not the person who burned the piece of cloth with some stripes and some stars on it. As though this party has any moral authority on respect for the flag anyway. We got our Department of War secretary who's wearing it as clothing on the liner of his sport coat. He wears it as a pocket silk. So tell me again how they are the party that loves the flag with their fat fascist fucking president molesting the flag on stage, hugging and kissing it as though it's a young child that he lusts after. It continued. Brian Glenn gets another shot at asking a question, many shots at asking a question. And before he can even ask his question, Donald Trump says, "Is the blue tent removed? Is the blue tent, did the idea that you gave me, did we get rid of that for you?" And then we'll talk about exactly what this exchange is about afterward.
First of all, you've got to...
Did they take down the blue tent?
Yes, sir, they did. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I mean, hit me with a blue tent and nobody knew what he was talking about. We found out, right?
Found out, right.
It was gone the next day, and they had a lot of... That was not so easy. They had, that's a violent, radical left group. Okay, go ahead.
I got peppered with a lot of comments for doing that. They still have their First Amendment right, though.
I'm not...
You've got an amazing team behind you. You've done an awesome job for D.C.
Did you catch that? Well, they still have their right to free speech. Well, I'm not so sure about that, says Donald Trump. You're not so sure about the First Amendment of the Constitution, that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or the abridgment of our freedom of speech? You're not so sure about it? Did you not, Donald Trump? Raise your right hand twice? What's it matter? An oath doesn't matter to Donald Trump. A solemn vow, an affirmation doesn't matter. He's a liar. This is what they're talking about. There's been a decades plural long vigil outside the White House that has to be manned 24/7 in order to be deemed a protest. They can't just leave the tent and leave it and go home. Otherwise, National Park Service, the Secret Service, can remove it. And so for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, since 1981, a vigil against nuclear war, seems a pretty noble cause, right? Has stood outside the White House until Brian Glenn started whining about it, that it was an eyesore and a security risk for the White House. Hadn't been a risk since 1981 in my childhood. But apparently this new regime, this new fascist totalitarian nonsense is taking root, and the White House policy advisor, Brian Glenn, saw fit to have it removed. And Donald Trump, he does what he's told, I guess. This is from the USA Today. Trump ordered a peace vigil tent near the White House removed. A decades-long peace vigil near the White House was dismantled at President Donald Trump's direction in recent days. Trump hadn't been aware of the vigil until Real America's Voice correspondent Brian Glenn told him about it in an Oval Office exchange on September 5th. Officials partially dismantled the vigil on September 7th, the Washington Post reported. USA Today, reached out to the White House and the U.S. Park Police for comment. Trump later bragged about the action, calling it a tough one. "It's been there for many years," Trump said on September 8th. "We took it down. It came down very quickly." When he says it's a tough one, he doesn't mean it was a tough decision on whether to allow it to remain. He means it was a tough action. Big, bold man violating people's constitutional rights. Liberals' constitutional rights. They're not targeting conservatives. I got a host of stuff to talk about today, and all of it has the patina of what is to come, and it's not good. It is not good. I am at risk. You are at risk. Anybody who speaks out against this administration, anybody who's not sufficiently sad and mournful about the death of Charlie Kirk is at risk now. This is the America. This is the freedom that we have, the greatest country in the world. We are a failed state. I welcome your feedback. I invite you to this conversation. If you disagree, I'd love to hear from you. You can comment below this video wherever you're watching it. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. Again, please subscribe. It is free to subscribe. It's free to like and follow on Facebook. I'd love to have you in the audience. You could set an egg timer. You can set an alarm clock to the content being published. I'd love to have you in the audience. We love and appreciate you very much. We'll see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.